Hello, my name is Celeste Sikora, and I am with Seniors Resource Center. And thank you so much for being here today. I hope you're enjoying the fair. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jackie to introduce our keynote speaker today.
So
she's very excited to be here.
The main attraction here, Karen Owen-Lee. We're very excited to have her with us today. Karen Owen-Lee is a second-generation gerontologist. Her mother was a professor of gerontology, a pioneer in her day. She's a national speaker, best-selling author. We have books here for sale afterwards. A national radio show host, and has a 30-year career with seniors. She started as a district manager for 40 nursing homes in 5 states, and now she owns Housing Options for Seniors, a free senior housing placement service in Denver. One of her delights is calling her 93-year-old father every day in Pennsylvania at 7 in the morning. So thank you, Karen, again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm constantly asked in my business or whenever I'm out, how do I address these questions? So that's what we're going to cover today. And I have a whole section on what should we be covering, because that's always another question. First of all, think about when you were a child and what your parents did for you. And there were some difficult conversations that you had to have with them. Okay, the first one that comes to mind is birds and the bees, but this is my brother. I love to show this picture. This is my brother, who is now 65 or so. He's a veterinarian with a PhD, and he specializes in chicken diseases, but he's internationally known. Well, what's so funny is I wrote my book, The Caring Code. He's the last picture in the book, and he has no idea that I published the book or that his picture is in there and that I'm talking about him today. So if you meet Dr. Bob, don't be telling him. What's so funny is he just wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm thinking, oh, I hope his picture doesn't ever show up in any of my information. So, but we have had difficult conversations with our children. But now we're talking about our loved ones, our older loved ones, and it's real difficult. These are some statistics. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the one at the second one down is the self-esteem. I'm afraid to talk to mom or dad, my uncle, my neighbor, whomever that might be, about sticky situations or sticky subjects. So we don't do it. We just wait. Oh, it's never going to happen. And we wait, and then a crisis hits, and we haven't addressed the issues. So that's what we're talking about today. How are we going to address the issues, not hurt their feelings, not permanently damaging their self-esteem. Can I get it to work? And you know, you can have these conversations and there's awkwardness. I always say that there are taboos in the family and we're not going to touch them. And those are usually money and politics in my family. It's always sex. And religion is another one. So we don't want to touch those things. But we need to talk about anything that we're going to have trouble with them in the future. For example, the car keys. Anyone kind of have an idea of needing to talk about that? When my father, whom I have to say that he has his MBA from Harvard, and he was in the 2 world wars, so he's very, in my mind, he's very, very accomplished. and I honor him. And for his car, this was so funny, and this is just one way that you may know that you're in a little bit of trouble. His car was a gray car, and the bumper on the gray car was, let's say, injured, if you want to say it that way. He had backed into a few things. One of them, I was in the car. And I said to him, shouldn't you put a note on the car? Oh, no, I just bumped into it. Anyway, he went out with the little paintbrush that you get to paint over little scratches that you and I might have. That didn't look quite right. So he went ahead and got the duct tape out. And so he duct taped it, thinking that no one would notice. Yeah, we noticed. But the nice thing is, thank goodness, he gave up his keys on his own. So we were grateful for that. But you have home health. Your loved one is at home and you need home health to come in. I am not having some stranger come in my house. I don't care who it is. Moving. I never, ever want to move out of my house. I am dying in my house. I don't care what happens. How are you going to address that? Do you know where their legal documents are? Do you know where their assets, their, let's say, CDs and stocks and bonds and all of that would be located? Do you know how much they get in Social Security? I love to ask that question when I'm giving presentations, simply because I would say about 1/4 know how much their parents get in Social Security. Well, if you're going to have help come in, either it be home health or if they need to go to assisted living, independent living, whatever that might be, kind of have to have an idea of how much money they have. I think you gotta look into that one. What are their last wishes in selling of the family home? What's interesting is they have a problem with selling of the family home, and the adult children do also. You can't do that. I grew up in that house. Oops. Medications. I have had clients where the son or the daughter will come and fill the little pill box, and mom, living on her own in her own house, Monday, she just loves the pink ones. So she goes down, takes all the pink ones. On Tuesday, it's blue. And the family member doesn't know that because they're not there administrating the pills. Finances we talked about, downsizing, getting rid of, I always say, we spend 50% of our time accumulating odds and ends and possessions, and 50% getting rid of them. Getting rid of them, I had a girlfriend come in my house the other day and I said to her, you want anything? You just take it. I'm single, I don't care, and I don't have any heirs. So, medical conditions, their medical condition may be sliding and you need to address it. That's when you need to bring in home health or assisted living. Moving in with a family member. Oh, they're gonna move in with me. It'll be just fine. And Celeste, who introduced, or was up here introducing, her mother-in-law moved in. I said, how's that working? Well, just fine. We get along just fine. But she's in the sandwich generation, which means she has a 9-year-old daughter and an 83-year-old mother-in-law living in the same house. That woman, and a full-time job, that woman is busy. Seniors, I'm speeding because I have to get wherever I'm going before I forget where I'm going. Okay? I'll admit to it. I've done it. It's like walking up the steps and you know you're after something, but you can't think of what it is. And I always say, oh, I'm stressed and I've got too much on my mind. No, Karen, you're getting older. I want you to look at your personal fears. Why are you not bringing up these issues? Why are you not talking to your father, your uncle, whatever? I use parents, and I mean any loved one, senior loved one. What are your fears? Why are you not doing it? And set your goals for each discussion. You may have a litany of what you want to talk about, but you may want to just talk little sections at a time instead of doing it full-blown all at once. You may be afraid of, again, remember the statistics a while back of self-esteem, their self-esteem, and bringing up topics that might agitate them. Those are the things that bring up your fears. But you need to look at that and think of that before you even start the conversation. And those fears may be different for each topic. You may want to list your fears just to get them on paper and out of your body. You know, you're supposed to be journaling every day. Everybody tells you you're supposed to be journaling. Yeah, right. And remember that you're not alone. That's why you're at the Senior Resource Fair. There are more free resources out there than you will ever imagine. And as I'm a speaker, national speaker around the country, I address what national, even the feds have programs out there. And if you will look at benefitscheckup.com, or is it .org? They have all of the programs listed in there, and I think it's in one of the slides. It's a resource that lists all of the free services that are available nationally. And then if you go to the Area Agency on Aging, you can also find out what's free. The point behind the conversation is to be kind. I had one client that just kept on berating her mother for whatever was wrong. And she kept on calling me and calling me. This isn't working. And she said that I stole money. Well, I didn't steal her money. But instead of saying, Mom, you know, I'm really sorry, I did not steal your money. So when I talked to her about being compassionate with her mother, she called me back about a few weeks later and she said, you know, it worked. She's listening to me. So being kind and compassionate is open your heart. Be their advocate. Have the positive dialogue that you want to just wring their neck about. Let me give you one example. This is the worst example in the world as far as not having the difficult conversations. One of my clients walked into the house. It was a ranch-style house, and laying in the living room, her husband had 28 guns. And she asked, what are you going to do with those? And his response was, I'm going to sell them. He was in the middle stages of Alzheimer's. how was he going to sell them? What was he going to do with them? Well, she believed that he was going to go ahead and sell them. Now remember, it's a ranch-style home, and so she's living on the top floor, he's living on the lower floor, and they don't have a real good relationship. So she was cooking dinner one day, and she was talking to her daughter on the phone, and he walked upstairs with one of the guns, and he was going to shoot her. Now, when should they have had some difficult conversations? She could start approaching him with getting rid of the guns, and she could be talking to her daughter, coming up with a plan on how to get that done. When she was in the kitchen, when the mother was in the kitchen with her daughter on the phone, all she said was, call 911 immediately. Just call. They got there soon enough. He ended up going into a memory care unit after being diagnosed thoroughly by a neurologist, and unfortunately we've lost him. But that is the most dramatic conversation. Along the way, they should have been having shorter conversations about what the rules are in the house. Many people overthink what's going to happen. When I had this discussion with my father before, he wouldn't listen. He got mad, he got angry. I don't want him to be angry. I want to have a friendship with him. Well, don't ever think it. Forget the past. Just start today, be positive, and think ahead of what you want to say and what your fears are. Again, one more time, look for the positives. Don't be tied to the outcome. Your father just put Karen, your father just put duct tape on his car. No, I can't ask him to stop driving that day, but we can have conversations about what are the other options. He is living in an assisted living, and they have transportation. His doctor was off of site, so he could take that transportation and get out. And he was a volunteer at the local hospital 5 days a week, 4 hours a day for 27 years. If he gave up his car, he would have to give up that volunteering. Very much his self-esteem. And they would take him. They'd take him on the bus and go. Chit-chat about the conversation. You don't have to bring it, make it short. Bring it to their attention span. Okay, I'll admit it. I give up. This is me. This is me, and please don't get mad at me. That's what a lot of adult children are afraid of. Please don't get mad at me. Optional phrases for beginning. I think this is where people get stuck. How do I start? And the number one thing is, Karen, you've been wonderful to me as a mother. And let me, I need to interrupt for 1 second. This is Karen Paulson. Please stand up. She is my assistant for the day. She just retired from Lockheed Martin as an executive, and we're so happy to have her. So Karen, you've been a wonderful mother to me, and I've really appreciated everything you've done for me. Now let me take over. Let me help you. I have more of the resources. Acknowledge what they've done for you. If it's your husband, we've always had a wonderful time together, and you know, let me do some of the things. You did the bill paying all these years, now let me do it. Do you have time to brainstorm about this or about whatever topic? And they may say no. Yay! At least you're giving them the, allowing them some independence. I need some help understanding what might happen if you need to go to a hospital, mom or dad, your spouse, which one would you like to go to? Just talk about some of the things that you just don't have the answers to. And you want to have the answers because I believe that every family should have a plan. Have a plan of where they want to go, know their finances, know everything that their choices would be, and get it down on paper so the whole family knows exactly what happens. In my business, the biggest problem is dysfunctional families. Not everybody can agree on what needs to be done. So finding out what the senior wants would be the first thing to do. So what do you think about this topic? What do you think about giving up your car keys? AARP, speaking on the subject, AARP does have I believe it's a free class that you can attend, or your senior may attend, to just check on their abilities. I have also had clients go take the driver's test. Not a really good idea. And the reason being is one of my clients passed. I can drive and you can't take my keys. So there. And another one I just heard about the other day, the adult child, the daughter was so angry at the DMV. They said in front of the entire room, "You may no longer drive." And she said, couldn't they have pulled him into the room, into a side room, and told him that, you know, this is the situation? Your health is changing now, and I need to know what your wishes are. And that's really what we're after. Okay, this is Karen. Try and try again. If your first attempt at a conversation doesn't work, try it again. So he may not have been the best one to put the concrete down there, so maybe they need to send somebody else in. Blocks to the chat. Again, I mentioned before, you're talking about the taboos that money, politics, and sex. Things you don't want to bring up. Hopefully you don't want to have the difficult conversation in sex, but your loved one might say, I am old enough, I know what I'm doing, don't you bother getting involved because I rule. And you have to respect that. What I want you to respect is that they have lost so much independence. They may have lost a spouse. They may have lost their keys. Their health is declining. Their socialization is down to 0 because they've lost all of their friends. They don't go to the card games anymore every Friday night. They may not go out and play pool with the guys and have a few beers. So there's a lot of changes in their lives, and we need to respect that. I'm in control. And this is the other one I mentioned before, which is the biggest one that I run into all the time. I've lived in my house for 60 years and I am not moving. I see a few heads nodding in the back. Yes, yeah. Well, what happens when they fall, break a hip? This is what I deal with. They fall, they break a hip, they go to rehab, and the occupational therapist goes home, does a home evaluation, which is free, to see what obstacles there are in the home. Okay, she's broken her hip. She has a 2-story, 3-story house. She has no bathroom on the first floor. The kitchen's on the second. The bathroom's on the third. Okay, she can get the little chair that goes up the steps. There are options, there are options. I had a client that fell, having trouble with this emotionally, and she laid on the floor for 4 days. She was uneasy. She wasn't wobbly in her gait, and she should have never been in that house in the first place. She had no pendant. She couldn't reach the phone. And you know what she did for survival? She had no food, no water. She couldn't reach anything. She urinated on herself to keep herself warm. She was in rehab for Medicare pays, I won't get into it, but they pay full of it and part of it for 100 days. She was in 100 days and could have stayed longer, but she ended up going to long-term care, a nursing home, after that, just because she didn't have the pendant, she didn't have any way of getting hold of anybody. Hate to tell the sad stories, but there are some out there. You're trying to get rid of me, especially if you're asking them to move to a higher level of care. Assisted living, a personal care home we haven't spoken about, and that's a small house, a residential house that has 6 to 8 individuals in it. That might be an option instead of the large assisted livings. Other blocks would be, look at your body language. If you're talking to her like this, I don't think she's going to be quite open to what you have to say. So, talk at eye level. If I'm talking to you like this, just sit down at the table, have a cup of coffee, have a great time. But think of these things ahead of time. I mentioned dysfunctional families. I would like to announce to everybody that I have the most dysfunctional family in the nation. And everybody starts to argue with me and turn to each other and laugh, thinking that theirs is worse than mine. We won't get into it. The role has changed, of course. We've mentioned this before, but the role really changes when you go to assisted living. If your senior moves to assisted living and you're the daughter, you become the daughter again. Let the caregivers take care of your mother. It's a wonderful option if she's open to it. I am not going to tell you, and I want to know how they got this picture taken. Entice the senior to interact. Morning only. This is really interesting. Dysfunctional family. I call my father at 7 a.m. every morning. He's in Pennsylvania. My sister, who lives in Pennsylvania, calls him at 7 p.m. every night. Okay. Dad's bedtime is 8:30. I'm thinking he's not going to be real coherent at 8 o'clock. And I've spoken to her about it, but that's her choice. In the conversation, how did that feel? You just hate silence. You know, you want to keep on, and you can't. And you have to validate their feelings. Again, they've lost so much. Recognize that. And recognize how hard it is to have the conversation with them right out in the open. Use open-ended questions and talk about their fears. More enticement. Tell me more. I'm not quite sure I understand. Just tell me more. The best, what you're really doing in a difficult conversation is trying to listen and talk less. So you find out what their needs are. How do you feel about what we just talked about? And maybe they don't have a lot to say, and that's okay. End the conversation, go on with your day, and bring it up again, like I said before. Bring it up again. What would you like me to do if? And that's where I think you need to start making a list of questions you might have for them, situations you might have for them, because what happens is nothing is talked about until the crisis hits. And I'm really sorry to say, it's so upsetting for the family, and it's so upsetting for the senior to have any of it happen. I can see you're upset. Do you want to tell me why? If the answer is no, great. That's okay. That's their privilege. And tell me more about other ideas. Maybe they have their own ideas of what they want to do. Everybody says to me they want one of those up and coming drivable cars or self-driving cars, and you just put in where you're going, and yeah, it's going to stop at the stoplight. And Karen rode with me in the car this morning, and we were gabbing, and she says to me, Karen, it's green. Karen, you just went through a red light. I'm really not that bad, but the green light really did come up. At the end of it, congratulate yourself. And that you need to congratulate yourself for each and every conversation you have. You're just moving along little by little by little, and you need to be kind to yourself. Take a long walk, take some time away. Make sure that your senior is safe and comfortable by leaving, but get out of the house, that's certainly fine. One thing that many people don't, Senior Resource Center has introduced it, but adult daycare. You can go for half a day. You can have your senior go for half a day. If you're like Celeste and in sandwich generation, she has to drop off her child, worry about her mother-in-law, and go to work all day. The average loss of work is 7.5 days per year for every full-time employee, which amounts to, along with absenteeism, tardiness, $33.6 billion a year is lost by employers for low productivity. Okay, Karen, I'm really picking on you today. Oh yeah, I pick on her. She's my neighbor. I pick on her all the time. So she has to get the daycare all set up, and corporations understand that stuff. But she's sitting at work. When she was working at Lockheed Martin, she was also dealing with her mother. So she would have to call and make doctor's appointments. Her mother might be, some parents or seniors are calling constantly for, where was this? What do I have to do? And reasonably, they forget the things. And who are they going to call? The person that's closest to them, and it was Karen, the daughter. That's taking time away from work. And so for full-time employees, I really empathize with you, and that's what a lot of my national speaking is about, is the adult child being the caregiver and being employed. It's a difficult situation to be in, although any of these situations are not easy in regards to having the guts to do it. With that, I'd like to introduce my book. Yes, I wrote a book. It's called The Caring Code. It's 96 pages. It is just a workbook for you to work through the topics that we talked about today. Assisted living, driving, all of having the difficult conversation, and I'm sure you can't see it from here, but please come up. Karen's going to be working with you. There are a lot of blank spaces, a lot of lines to write into. So you can, it truly is a workbook to work through helping your aging parent or helping your aging loved one, no matter who that would be. It is $12. And then I've got the Vial of Life. All of a sudden I lost the name of it. The Vial of Life. This is a national program with EMTs. Okay, you've hit 911 and they come into the house. Nobody's there. Let's talk about the woman that laid on the floor for 4 days. Let's say that somehow they did a welfare check on her, that her daughter called from California, and I'm making this up, and did a welfare check. This should be on every refrigerator door for every individual in the United States. And it has in here your medical information, your medications, your allergies, who your doctor is, your person to contact, your emergency contact person. What's interesting, this is a funny story. I was standing in 7-Eleven and the gentleman in front of me was a fireman. And I said, sir, you know, I talk to everybody about health issues. Have you ever heard of the Vial of Life? And he said, it is the most wonderful program that there is out there. If everybody would have this on their refrigerator door, life would be so easy for us. If the fire department comes in your house, the chief that's with the fire, with the group, walks over. On here it has a sticky that goes on your front window at your door, telling them where this is located. This should be on your refrigerator. That's part of the national program. And your picture goes in here. A lot of people don't like that one. But they want to make sure that they're putting the right person on the gurney as they go out the door. But the chief is taking this information and typing it into the computer. So everything is in there. You go to the hospital, you're whisked in there, and what is usually the hesitating part? It's the admission. They don't have your Medicare card. They don't have your insurance card. There are copies of that in here that you would put in here. And since it's done by every department in the nation, I truly recommend it. These are $2 a piece. You need one for each person in your household, and Karen will help you up here explain it. But think about this. If you don't want to purchase one of these, then what I recommend you do is put that information in a clear baggie and stick it to the refrigerator door. It's not the identification, I mean, they won't know the vial of life, but they're going to go look for that information. Ma'am, you had a question?
I have one that's different than that. And
Doesn't matter.
Have a photo, a place for a photo.
Put it in it.
Okay.
Put it in it. And it needs to be kind of, you know, like not your high school picture. Yeah, that helps for some reason. But if it's a, pardon me, if it's a household with more than one senior in it, they want to make sure that they're getting the right person. And it's even true for children, because the children have the peanut allergies. How are they going to know when they go to the hospital that the child has that? You're at work, your number's in there, but the child's got to go. He just broke his arm, whatever it might be, and they're going to whisk him off. The other thing that's really interesting is if you have the secure padlock to get into your garage or your front door or whatever it is. I happen to have a lockbox. I used to be a realtor for seniors, and I have a lockbox on my front door. And everybody's, is your house for sale? No, that lockbox is there for 911. If you call the sheriff's department and give them the code, it goes in your file. And so when they go to the house, they can unlock my lockbox, get the key, get in. Like I said before, I'm a single woman. I don't wear the pendant. And I might fall down, do something, fall down the steps, crack my head, whatever. And they can get to me just like that, because that information is being held by the sheriff or the fire department. So, thoughts?
How come you don't have a pendant? For what reason? Karen, how come you don't have
Well,
Would that be easier than getting a lock on your door? If somebody might get the, I mean, there's a lot of crooked people, they might get your
you know what?
thing.
You're about the 15th person that's told me that. And they're all my friends. So, and what's interesting about the pendant is now they've got glimmer and glam, you know, to cover it so it looks like a necklace. And you're absolutely right. I should have one, and I should wear it within my house. So, thank you very much. Oh, yeah, I am.
I'll tell you about the pendant. I had a fall. And I had a fall, and I did not have the pendant at the time, but I was in a public place. But you cannot always get at your pendant. When I fell, I broke my humerus bone, and there was no way I could move if I had the pendant here or there. There was no way I could get at it. I have it. But I have it only because my daughter insists that I have it, and I really don't need it.
Okay. My father's got one too. And his lays on the bureau. He's in assisted living. His lays on the bureau, and he used to walk around that building twice a day. Dad, why do you not have your pendant on? So you know what I did? I bought him a Broncos cap that was bright orange. So if you fell down, especially back in Pennsylvania, if you fall in the snow, they're going to be able to see you. Another woman was in her car, and it was like in the summer, and inside her car, inside the garage, it was 100 degrees. She had fibromyalgia, MS. She was quite debilitated. And she punched her pendant. She was in the garage. It didn't reach the garage. And she sat there in the car. She was so white, she couldn't open the door on the car. And her painter came the next day, 72 hours later, and found her there. She was 1% away from dying. So you need to make sure the pendant needs to be GPS. It needs to have that element in it. It can't be for just within the house. Yes?
What is the best kind to get, and what is the best company to go? I don't know anything about it.
I don't know. And I'm sorry, I don't know that. I would be asking the senior resource panel of the employees here what their recommendation is. But thank you. Yes?
You talked about the lockbox, the Wheat Ridge, and I know Arvada Police Department does the lockboxes for the seniors and their.
How interesting.
They have a number on the door, and you can't call to get, if you lock yourself out of the house, too bad. But they will come in an emergency, and then they don't have to break doors or anything.
What she was saying is that you can get it from the fire department or
From the Lakewood Police Department.
Lakewood Police Department will.
Arvada also has.
Okay. So I had, anyway, for my microphones for the recording, the police department will give you a lockbox to put on your house.
I paid for one.
One of the other things I heard, now again, I work nationally, is that they also have the pendant for free. Now, I have not found one in Denver that does that, but I haven't done not much research. I just called up the one near me and they didn't know. Yes?
These lock boxes are not put out where they can see.
Oh, okay, the lock boxes.
The police department, where to go to get it.
Okay, what he's saying is that the lock boxes are not hanging on the front doorknob like mine.
Right.
And really what I should do is turn it and put it on the back door. Okay, again, it's on the list. Okay, let me talk to you just 1 second about getting a will, a trust. Okay, I've been in the industry for 30 years. I'm 60 years old. Okay, I hate to admit it. But I got my first will 3 years ago. Is that not repulsive? I mean, honestly, if you don't have a will, a power of attorney, that's the financial and the medical power of attorney and the durable power of attorney. Durable power of attorney is going to say, keep her alive or resuscitate her or not resuscitate her. You need that to go to the hospital. I would be taking it with me if I was going. And they have their own forms there, but just cover yourself with getting the legal stuff done. Let me tell you one more story, and the last story is about me and my dysfunctional family. I'm calling myself Karen Owen-Lee, the senior expert. Okay. I am not allowed, I'm not the medical power of attorney. Therefore, I am not allowed to know anything about my father's medical health. He's been in hospice twice this year. I can't find anything out. I talk to him every day. He says, Karen, if there's something that happens, I'll tell you. Okay, Dad, when you're comatose, how are you going to be telling me that? So, my point is there is a paper that is called the HIPAA release form. You need to have that signed if you are not the medical POA. And you think, my brothers and sisters are going to keep me informed, it's not a problem. Not always so. The other thing about the HIPAA release, that would release his medical information to me. I can find out about it. I cannot make decisions, but I can be informed about what's going on. And it would make me feel so much better if I knew exactly, because then I could think of, how long is he going to live? How can I help him? How can I? They had him sitting in a wheelchair. My dad loves his easy chair. He sits and sleeps in his easy chair. Great. But unfortunately, I can't get involved. So, word to the wise, you need a HIPAA release form for every facility that your loved one is going to be going to. That means the hospital, the rehab center, the assisted living, any place that he's going, hospice, all of those have their own forms. And it makes me mad, because there should be a universal form that you can just get done. No, and I got lectured, yes.
I don't need one for being a spouse, do I? Does your spouse need that also?
Well, you're medical power of attorney, are you not? No,
Okay.
no. But if you want one for your sister and you're not medical power of attorney, then you would need one. Yes.
You mean, in this case, your father would have to sign that.
My brother, the medical power of attorney, signs it for me to have permission to find out medically what is wrong with my father.
Or your father could.
Or my father could. He's in perfect state of mind. He could sign it too. But there just has been some reluctance there because, truthfully, I know too much. She's going to get too involved. We don't want her involved.
She's a woman.
And she's alone and she has a lockbox on her front door. And my joke to my friends, I've got 2 jokes to my friends. If you want to be my friend, you have to push my wheelchair. And you're not invited to my house because I don't like to dust. 911 is the only one allowed in my house, so. With that, are there any other questions? Yes, in the back row.
Oh, I want to tell you that for my mom, for the power of attorney, you have to get that. My mom is also. You have to get that while they're still capable of signing. But you can get the forms at Office Max, and you just have to look for the unlimited durable power of attorney. Because if you go to an attorney, it's very expensive. If you do not get those forms signed, then you will have to go before a court of law to be able to make any decisions for your parents. So I would recommend everybody go and get those forms, unlimited durable power of attorney. You can take them to your bank notary will sign them for you, and you just have to have a witness and then a second person in case you're not around.
And what she's saying, just for the camera, she's saying that you can go to Office Max, or you could go online and get those, the POAs and all of that, and do it self. Do it by yourself, get it notarized at the bank, you'll have it. One thing I didn't mention, everybody thinks you have to have a safe for your information to be put into. Put it in your freezer. Honest to God, your freezer is not gonna burn down. And is the robber gonna be looking in your freezer? No. So the other one, I have 2 other ones that I just have, and I know I'm running out of time. I have 2 more things that are just get my goat. One is throw rugs. That's a tripping Honest to God, if you have one, I'm coming after you. I'm going to fill my garage with throw rugs. The other thing is, I always recommend, this is weird, a clear shower curtain. Why? Because if your senior is in the shower, sitting in the on the shower chair, and you have a clear shower curtain, you can check on them. You can give them instructions instead of, how you doing? Still checking. It's making them cold. That is, I'm sorry, I think it's rude. I call it aging without dignity. So, there were some other questions. Yes?
This isn't a question, but downstairs, they have this booklet called 5 Wishes, and I was really happy to see it because they're free here, but they usually cost $1. But this is advanced directives with a heart, and it's much simpler than it's just wonderful, and Lutheran is handing them out today.
This is called 5 Wishes, and I really recommend that everybody gets it. What it is it helps you walk through. It walks you through what you want, what your wishes are. So please, 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 please pick this up and give it to your medical power of attorney. And
They're downstairs at the post-acute care table.
okay, and Karen is yelling at me that I'm really over time. One more question.
I was gonna say, I have a medical power of attorney, but this gives you a lot more options.
This gives you a lot more options, and it tells you what your wishes are. So with that, I better shut up, and
Answer questions afterward.
I can.